How are we, boys? If you follow me on Twitter, you know that I changed my mouse from my old Zowie FK1 to a glorious Model D. And I said that I was going to do a review or sort of like a first impressions overlook of the mouse because I know a lot of people know about the glorious Model O, but I'm not too sure about people with the glorious Model D. Basically, the glorious Model D is like the ergo equivalent to the glorious Model O. The glorious Model O being an ambi sort of mouse, which is sort of like my sort of cup of tea. If you know anything about my mouse usage in the past, I've basically run nothing but Zowies for the past 8 years because I don't see any other reason to run anything at the moment. I ran a FK1 original, then I got another FK1, FK2, and I went back to an FK1. The only two mouses I used in between my Zowies and stuff was some stock 1000 polling rate mouse that I got from M-Wave. I used that for one CS LAN event, and a couple of weeks after that, then I gave up on it. Same with the G303, I tried that, but that was just way too small, way too ergo, and I stopped using it within 3 or 4 weeks or something. And I went back to the Zowie, and I haven't really switched off since. I'm not a firm believer that a mouse is going to change everything for you. It's not going to turn you into some god gamer overnight. That's not what's going to happen. It's about, what's comfortable, what works for you. So if you find something that works for you, stick with it. That's my honest opinion. But if you're in the market for a new mouse, let's talk about the glorious Model D, because I think it's a really great mouse and it's been pulling some great things for me. Like in-game, out-game, everything about it is just nice. So we'll go through a few points really quickly and get my thoughts out on the table, and you can make your mind up if you want to purchase one or not. Okay, so I want to talk about the glorious software real quickly before I go into the specifics and the the basic things about the mouse. So obviously it has the DPI settings and stuff you can change, as you can see here. It has the lighting effects, and you got a whole bunch of modes. Obviously I'm running single color, as you can see here. Single color glorious mode, seamless breathing single color, tail, rave, wave, LED off if you don't want lights at all. You can remap all 6 buttons on your mouse. Here on the left is a macro editor, obviously a bunch of profiles you can set up for different games if you're running different macros. You got the liftoff distance, you can change from 2 millimeters to 3 millimeters, sorry about the stutter. That's pretty useful, but obviously most people just leave it at 2 millimeters. That's perfectly fine. The polling rate settings, you can just change there, and the debounce if you want to get into that, but you obviously don't really need to change debounce settings if you don't know what you're doing. So the software is pretty easy to use. Probably one of the better sort of UIs for a software, especially a mouse software. Considering the last mouse I used that had a software was way too difficult to go through, and it was just way too complicated for no reason. So let's get into the specs. The specs are the interesting part. Okay, so this is the glorious Model D, not the D-. So this mouse weighs a total of 68 grams. It's running the 3360 sensor, which is pretty much industry standard for most mouses coming out these days. It has a button number of 6. The acceleration is 50 grams. Max DPI can go up to 12,000. Obviously the polling rate being pretty standard, so it goes 125, 250, 500, 1000, the standard liftoff distance is 2 millimeters. It's got the standard cord, the flexible cable. It's a 2.0 USB connection cable. The cable length's around about 2 meters. And it's running the G-Scape mouse feed, so it's really nice, and the LEDs are 16.8 million color RGB, and it obviously runs its own OS software, Glorious Model D Pacific, and that's pretty much all for the specs. Now let's just get into my actual feelings about this thing. My feelings about this mouse are very good. The first issue I found when I got this mouse was that it was so much lighter than any Zowie I've ever used. If I'm correct, I think the Zowie is 93 or 94 grams, or the FK1 variant should be. Somewhere around there. I could be a couple grams off, but I know it's around that ballpark. So going from that to a whole, almost 30 grams lighter, when I was using it, it was making me play bad at first because I wasn't used to how light it was. I was used to feeling my Zowie move when I moved it, but once I adapted to it, I actually liked the really lightweight mouse. It's kind of interesting concept. I never thought it would be such a big factor, but especially when it comes to tracking and click timing stuff. So if I'm practicing in Kovacs, whatever, I noticed my tracking, especially in Kovacs or any Unreal Engine 4 game, is so much better than it was before. And I don't know if that's due to my Zowie having a stuffed sensor, or it's just the mouse in general. But the improvement I'm seeing with the mouse overall is just incredible. I've been playing out of my mind recently with this mouse. At first, like I said, I had some issues, but once I got used to the weight, it's really nice. And considering it's an ergo mouse and I've only used nothing but ambidextrous mouses before, I was kind of thrown off a little bit when, obviously, because my mate Saber, shout out to Saber, who gave it to me for a good price, he told me it was an ergo mouse, and I was sort of like, oh, do I really want it? And I said to myself, fuck it, I'm gonna try it, and I'm glad I did, because I really like it. Would I possibly change this out for a Glorious Model O? Yeah, probably, because I'm more of an Ambi fan personally. But for what it is, I'm enjoying it, and as long as I get some usage out of it before I want to swap to a Glorious O or back to a Zowie again, it's good. It's just really good. I don't know what else to say about it. I would highly recommend it if anyone's really into something simple, lightweight. If you're looking for something to help you tracking, something that just isn't heavy in general, this is the mouse to go to. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I'll probably give it, I don't know, an 8 out of 10, if it's going to rate compared to the small amount of mouses I've used before. But honestly, I really like it. And if you're into Ambi mouses, I'd probably recommend looking up a Glorious Model O. Obviously, the Model D is slightly different shape, but as an Ambi user and a Claw Grip user, I like it, and it works perfectly, so I can't complain too much. And I just want to say thank you to Saber again for giving it to me for a good price. Appreciate it, man. And I'll leave it with that. And yeah, I hope I've enlightened someone, or someone was sitting on the fence about it. I've sold you on it. They're relatively cheap for a mouse of a 3360 sensor anyway. For this build and quality and lightweight, you can't go wrong. I think it's $50 USD retail, which is cheap compared to some Zowies. Well, actually, no, thinking about it, it's probably around about the same prices, maybe a little bit cheaper, but yeah, I recommend it, highly recommend it. And with that, I think I'm going to end the video here. Hope everyone enjoyed this one-off thing. Never done a mouse review before, so I thought, why not just try and get my impressions out, see what people think about it, and all that. So yeah, anyway, yeah, thanks for watching.